red road, stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel, heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe when we don't talk at all. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell, can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. We back the badge, we guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down, we just press play. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell, can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, we won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm telling you what, I'm still feeling really, really good about that jam. AI created, and I know we've got problems with AI, and I know it is over the top, and I know that it is used for some very nefarious purposes, but I used it to make that song. I have to tell you, I'm pretty cool with it. I'm pretty cool with it. I was playing, I talked about this a couple episodes ago. I've been playing to start every show, some kind of a song or another. And I've been playing commercial music, because just like it's free on the radio, it's not free on the radio. But I mean, I bought it from my Apple store, for my Apple Music. And it's just like, you watch TV, they can play any song, as a bumper music to come back to segments and so forth on news and things like that. Why can't I use it, right? Apparently I wasn't allowed to. I was told I was going to get all kinds of strikes if you use their music without their permission. It's like, it's in the public domain. Why can't we use it whenever the hell we want to? But the answer is you can't, apparently. And so the only thing you can use is AI created music. There's no artist. So I had to give a couple of bucks to the AI bot or company or whatever the hell you want to call it to get the license for what the thing that I created, and there it is. Now I can play it. And I literally wrote that. So I wrote that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get a couple of things up on the screen for you, including the crawl, so you know exactly what we're doing each and every day. And there it is down at the bottom. Make sure you read that. I know I'm talking. It's hard to read something and listen to something else being said at the same time, but there it is. Got some information there just about who we are, what we're doing, and how you can help support it. Anyway, with the music, I just told the AI, I don't even know what the name of the thing was, the company was, or the service was, and I just kind of told it the kind of song I wanted, the genre that I wanted, the lyrics that I wanted, and you produce it. And then biggity bang boom, in like 3 minutes or whatever, there it is. And red, white, and raise hell is the new opening song for the show. I just think it's kind of cool. All right, good morning. Tuesday, 13th morning of the first month year of our Lord 2026. Pastor Chris Long from the OCA, that's the Ohio Christian Alliance, is going to be joining me in about 25 minutes or so this morning to talk about all of the corruption in Ohio. It is being overlooked by a lot of people. I guarantee you that Ohio leadership, including some of our Republican statewide office holders, are hoping this goes away sooner rather than later, because they don't want to have to confront it. They don't want to have to address it. It's a problem. And we're talking about fraud in so many different avenues being committed, again, largely by the Somali community in Columbus, just like the Somali community in Minneapolis. Nobody likes to say that. Nobody likes to talk about that. And that's because of our ridiculous culture created by the radical left, that if you condemn that which is condemnable, you are racist. If the person or the group that is doing wrong is the wrong color and they're supposed to be a protected class, if they're marginalized in some way, you can't criticize them or you're a bigot. Nobody wants to point out that it's not all Somalis. It is overwhelmingly Somalis. And the evidence of that continues to pop up in not only Minnesota, but here in Ohio. And we're going to address it. Pastor Long did an interview with the Auditor of State, Keith Faber, and talked about what are you auditing, and got some answers about where it goes from here, about the tip line, the fraud tip line, and so forth. We'll get into all of that with Pastor Long coming up at the bottom of this hour. So I'm very much looking forward to that, and I think you will be too. Chris and I had a really nice long chat off the air last week, or it was over the weekend, I guess I should say. So he's going to come on and talk about what Ohio is going to do about this, from the state office holders to the legislature. And you remember about 2 weeks ago when the show was like just born, we had Josh Williams on, state representative from Northwest Ohio, Toledo area. He is introducing legislation this week that is going to require way more strict oversight of all of these businesses. So I started to list all the different things too. It's not just the daycares. It is the home health care. It is all the service industries where you don't have to make and manufacture a product. It's hard to launder money through a business that doesn't, that has to provide product and show those sales and show the actual merchandise where it comes from. If it's just a business, you don't actually have to do business. It's like running a car wash. How much money you taking in, and where's that coming from? And I'm thinking of this because of a variety of different reasons. But so you got home health care, you've got Medicaid, you've got food services for the impoverished, all of these things that generate state funded money because they're for poor people, impoverished people, generate all of these grants for these things, and then you don't actually have to serve anybody. Transportation, you don't have to take them anywhere, just write down the miles and write down the logs, and boom, here comes the cash machine. It's just flowing. So it's a very, very lucrative thing, and it is getting to be unmanageable. And quite frankly, it's something we shouldn't have to manage. That's one of the reasons we're going to talk about it with Chris Long today. If you look at the top of the screen today, or at the bottom of the screen, I guess it's underneath the actual screen on Rumble where we get started, corruption, fraud, anarchy. How do we stop the left? That's just the theme of the show today because of the corruption I was just describing, the fraud that I was just describing, and the anarchy that continues to run wild in the streets. I want to talk about something else as we get started, by the way, and really appreciate you being here. Chatters, let me have a peek. Let me have a peek and see where we are at this early hour. I know there are still a lot of people who want me to go back to 10 to noon. I can't do it right now. I just can't. I've got to do it early. It's the nature of the beast. So those of you who get up early, God bless you and love you. And if you want me to read your chat messages on the air, don't forget, drop something in the Rumble Rants button, on the Rumble Rants button at the bottom with the $ there, and we will certainly let everybody know that you are a contributor, and we appreciate that. The politically incorrect mechanic is a contributor, no doubt. He is in early this morning. Big Jake, Victor Sim is in. I see Joanne, and I see B. Morgan, and I see Sharon, and I Am Roz was first in, and she wanted everybody to know it. We see you, Roz. Thank you. And let's see, we've got... who else do I see up on the Macro Mia? I see CAD. I see CMG. Yo Jimbo made it in. Love this. This is my you guys are my bar regulars. I don't know why, but ever since I've been in radio, or now in podcasting and live streaming, I always remember, for whatever reason, Cheers. Late 1980s. I think it extended into the 1990s. Did it not? But I remember an episode of Cheers, and it was one of my favorite shows. Still is to this day, honestly. But I remember the episode of Cheers. There were, I think it was a couple of gay. Now remember, this is late 80s. There were a couple of gay guys, or guys that the regulars suspected were gay, who were hanging out by themselves, and then a bunch of other guys came in and they were like, oh no, it didn't turn out that they were, but the story was to make fun of homophobia. The story was, Cliff and Norm and the other regulars were, not going to come to Cheers anymore if it was going to become a gay bar, basically. Anybody Gen X or older who might remember this episode? Anybody in the chat remember this episode? I know you're carrying on your own conversation in there a little bit. But anyway, they were encouraging Sam to boot the guys out that they thought were gay. And Sam didn't know what to do, because he didn't want to do that. but he didn't want to, turn down his regulars either. So he went and talked to those guys about what the story was. And he said, look, these are my regulars here. If I lose my regulars, I lose my bar. That line has always stuck to me since I've been in media, and that's why I love my regulars. If I lose my regulars, I lose my show. My regulars coming in here every day. That's, especially in the chat. You guys are phenomenal. I mean, you're the reason we're here. I keep serving you drinks, right? But we need to bring more people in. The regulars need to bring some friends into the house, or into the bar in this case, as it were. So that's the point. As I look at my chat and I see some familiar suspects. Darby, good morning. Jansky, good morning. MJ, that's Mike. Good morning. I see you guys. Bring some friends with you into the bar. All right. That's all I ask. Bring some friends with you into the chat, because it's a big, big part of what we do. Now, you may notice the look today, right? Check the fit. I decided I'm going with Charlie today. I love this hoodie, by the way. But I decided to go with the Charlie Kirk Freedom shirt today, because this is strategic. It's not like it was just next up in my rotation. And some days I'm wearing a blazer on the show, and sometimes a sweater, and sometimes I'm going to go a little more casual. And today I decided to go with the hoodie, but with the message, with the freedom message. This, of course, was the white t-shirt with the black freedom, just like this, that Charlie died in. And I wanted to wear that today for a reason. And the reason is because I am so disgusted and sick and tired of the left trying to equate the murder of Charlie Kirk back in September, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, who was doing nothing but peacefully engaging people on ideas, on matters of faith, on matters of politics, on matters of culture, matters of history. He was murdered while doing that. And the left says that we can't be supportive of the ICE agent defending his life in Minnesota and using lethal force against Renee Good, and also still support Charlie Kirk and condemn his murder. They're saying we're being hypocrites if we're angry that Charlie Kirk was shot, but we're not angry that Rebecca Good was shot. Or I'm sorry, it's Renee. She's not that memorable, quite frankly, other than the terrible things that she is known for. But they're saying that comments like that are hypocritical. Okay, I'm going to show you something here. Let me share this part of the screen with you. Hang on one second. This is just the same type of disgusting, ridiculous performance that we saw for, in Minnesota during the George Floyd riots, or actually before. Yeah, it was during the George Floyd riots. Let me square that up so you can see it a little bit better, and I'll blow it up there. If you can't see it clearly, particularly because you're watching on a phone this morning, what you have here is the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz. Tampon Tim, for those who know him best. Tampon Tim standing over a, memorial vigil, whatever you want to call it, where they're dumping flowers on the roadway, where Renee Good tried to kill a cop, an ICE agent, and ended up being killed by the self-defensive actions of that ICE agent. And Governor Tim Walz is paying his respects. Rest in peace, would-be killer. Rest in peace, paid agitator. Rest in peace, paid ICE obstructionist and disruptor. Rest in peace as you tried to murder a federal agent and was stopped from doing so only by the swift actions of that federal agent. Rest in peace. I'm surprised they're not kneeling, genuflecting, the way they did at George Floyd at his memorial service, crying about a career criminal who overdosed on fentanyl and then died while in police custody. I'm surprised they're not doing that. But anyway, the point is, this is their, this is their mantra for the moment, that you can't be mad about the murder of Charlie Kirk unless you're also mad about the shooting, not murder, the shooting of Renee Good. That's the new message. And I am not about that life. And I am here to talk about that this morning a little bit before we get into things with Pastor Long. All right. Have a look at this. I want you to, you probably know a lot of this already if you've been engaged in this story since it all went down. But here are some of the details about Renee Good that the left does not want you to know as they try to make her out to be an innocent victim, which Charlie Kirk was. They try to make her out to be an innocent victim who was she was just a poet. Did you see my poem, by the way? Did you see my poem that I did that went viral? It's got about, I don't know, 500,000-600,000 views that I did, because we're told that Renee Good is a good woman because she was a mom who was just dropping off her kids and probably delivering food to a homeless shelter after leaving and singing at their church choir. They want you to believe she was all of those things. And the fact that she's a poet, they said, makes her, what an old soul. She's a poet. How dare they shoot somebody like that? I kind of had a moment of, I don't know, semi-weakness, and I did my own poem. All right, I might as well. What the hell? Like I said, it went viral on Instagram, and I might as well show it to you. This is just something I did the other day, and for whatever reason, I did it. And let me see if I can play it for you here.
But she was a poet. She was just a poet. And poets would never hurt anybody. The Minnesota mom, much like the Maryland dad, the Minnesota mom would never hurt anybody. Okay, well, I'm a poet too. Are you ready? Here's mine. Tell me what you think. Roses are red, violets are blue, and if your trained Marxist anti-ICE warrior ass tries to run down a federal agent in your SUV, he might shoot you.
So that's what I wrote while driving. I was driving to Medina. I was driving for the Medina County Friends and Neighbors meeting on Saturday when I flipped on the camera that I always have mounted, my phone. I decided to go Edgar Allan Poe. And you know what? I know the meter was just a little bit off. The rhyme worked. The meter was a little bit off, but that's what I came up with. You see, being a poet isn't that difficult, and it doesn't make you special, as I think that that exhibits. But anyway, let me get back to this person that we're being told was a church choir singer and a poet and a glorious, wonderful human being and so forth. Let's have a look, see if we can, at what she really is and was. Leftist activists and media figures have been attempting to paint a picture of her as an innocent mom who had just dropped off her kid at school and landed in the wrong place. But she was actually a militant activist deeply embedded in the ICE Watch network. ICE Watch is a loose alliance of radicalized anti-ICE activists, most of them paid to monitor, document, and actively resist the agency. They track and follow agents, film them, and then dox their vehicles and other identifying information in order to intimidate them and to try to make them quit. Bottom line, that's why they wear masks, so they can't be identified and have their families threatened. The New York Post reported Good, who moved to the city last year, linked up with the anti-ICE activist through her 6-year-old son's woke charter school, which boasts that it puts social justice first. Not education, social justice first, and involving kids in political and social activism. She was a warrior. She died doing what was right. A mother named Lisa, whose child attends the same indoctrination center, told the paper to listen to commands, to know your rights, to whistle when you see an ICE agent. And I don't have to get into the specifics about her personal life, about her and her quote unquote wife, which is what it is, raising a child together, one of 3 that apparently she had, but 2 of them were removed from the home for abuse, or at least that's the allegation. But it was through her involvement in this woke social justice school that led her into this community of activists, that led her to go out there and sit there and park with her, in her car parked perpendicular to, the traffic that was coming, including the ICE vehicles, in order to stop them. And she wasn't like stuck because her tires were spinning on the ice. She sat there and she danced in her seat as she smashed on her horn to the beat. I mean, literally, she was there as her quote unquote wife, but partner, whatever, was out of the vehicle recording it all. So everybody could see it as she's jamming and dancing and we're disrupting ICE. Look at how cool we are. We're stopping ICE from arresting criminals. Okay. For 3.5 minutes, she sat there doing that until eventually the ICE agents came up to her and told her, get out of the car. You're about to be arrested. That's when she backs up a little bit. And that's when the officer who was to the side of her car, the agent, moved to the front of her car. And she took the vehicle that was in reverse and dropped it down into drive and then floored it, which is why she hit him, which is why he shot her. Okay? That's how it all went down. This was not an innocent person. And all of the cell phone video that has come out since then has corroborated that. The only cell phone that's missing so far, the only cell phone video that's missing so far, honestly, is that of the partner, that of her quote unquote wife. She has video here that I think is going to be very, very relevant and pertinent to this whole thing. And she has not released hers. Now, why do you think that is? Everybody else who had a camera phone on that day, and all of these places have camera phones because their whole goal is to document all of this and then, use it to promote other obstruction and other insurrections and so on and so forth. Why do you think everybody who's got video has released it except for Renee Good's partner? Because if it showed anything that would defend or be used to prove that she was murdered, to prove that the agent did not have just cause to fire, if there was anything on her video that would help the cause that they were all so dedicated to, helping protect criminals. That was their cause. Let's all be very aware of that. Okay? If there was anything that could have defended them and their actions and could have made Renee Good the victim here of a murder by that agent, don't you think she would have released that second one? She would have hit upload to her social media from the scene, from the murder scene. But she has been conspicuous by her absence and that evidence on her phone not reported or released. My hope is that it's going to be subpoenaed by the federal, by the FBI or the DOJ, whoever is going to be taking point in this investigation, so that every single scrap of evidence can be collected to show. Now, we already know it from other cell phone videos that he was indeed hit by that car, and it would have been way, way worse had he not fired that gun to protect himself, to give him enough, a room to get out of the way and to obviously stop her from continuing to steer toward him. There's plenty of video that proves that and shows that. We don't need to dive into all of that. But what we're waiting for is that from her, person, spouse, partner, whatever you want to call her. That's extraordinarily important. And she hasn't shown that video for a reason. Now, I mentioned the groups and what they're doing out there. They're out there incessantly trying to get in the faces of the ICE agents to try to make them, discourage them from continuing what they're doing, to try to make them actually stop their law enforcement activities, which of course is a crime. It's called impeding a law enforcement activity or obstructing law enforcement. It's a crime. But they're out there and they're blaring bullhorns in their faces and they're whistling, the stupid, ridiculous, high-pitched, tweety whistles just to try to stop the agents from being able to communicate with one another from the din of the whistles. And also it's used like a dog whistle to call more dogs over, to call more. And I apologize. I love dogs. And that's an insult to compare these people to canines. But they use those whistles to call more people over. We got an ICE thing here, and come on over here and obstruct them and stop them and protect the criminals. And I should probably hit that super quick for you because you need to understand the people we're talking about here. All right. Department of Homeland Security. Let me share this one with you. Department of Homeland Security released this yesterday, and I think on Sunday too. Let me switch that over so you can see it a little bit bigger. All right. DHS released this really important information. Some of the worst that the ICE agents are out there rounding up and capturing to protect American citizens from these very dangerous and potentially violent people. Worst of the worst criminal, illegal alien, murderers, rapists, pedophiles, and gang members arrested just over the weekend. Just in that period of time after the agent who shot Rene Good to save his own life has been castigated and has been made out to be public enemy number one, according to the left. DHS highlighted more than a dozen arrests of illegal migrants convicted of horrific crimes, including murder, indecent liberties with a child, let's just call it what it freaking is, child molestation, and voluntary manslaughter. Even while facing a 1,300% increase in assaults, 3,200% increase in vehicular attacks, and an 8,000% increase in death threats against them, ICE continues to risk their lives to arrest the worst of the worst criminal aliens who have terrorized American families. This from DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, whom we'll have on this program soon. While Americans enjoyed their weekends, ICE enforcement was out there arresting murderers, rapists, pedophiles, and gang members from across the country. And these are the people that the left is out there trying to protect. If you stop ICE, if you are a part of the Impede ICE organization, if you're a part of the crowd that says we need to stop ICE from doing their job, this is what you're bringing into your community, or this is what you are making happen with your community, that these killers, rapists, child molesters, and worse, they continue to do what they do, which is communities. How can anybody with a functioning cerebral cortex possibly justify allowing these people, or I should say, harassing the law enforcement agents who are trying to protect their communities from these people? How can they possibly think that's the right thing to do, blowing whistles, using bullhorns, and so forth? It begs the question, with all of the anarchy we are seeing in the streets, okay? And it's only a matter of time, if we're being 100% honest, it's only a matter of time before the streets start to run red with blood, more than just that of a trickle from Rene Good, who was trying to run down a cop, run down an ICE agent. It's only a matter of time before what is right now rioting, obstruction, intimidation, harassment. It's only a short matter of time before that elevates to physical violence, not just with vehicles, but attacks with weapons. And then that's going to lead to fighting back with weapons as people lawfully and rightfully defend themselves from these paid assassins. Well, I won't call them all assassins, but these paid insurrectionists, and this truly is insurrection, by the way. They don't know the definition of that word. But at some point, it's going to elevate itself to that level, and it's going to be a civil war. I'm not desirous of that. I don't want that to happen. I'm predicting it's going to happen if we don't do something about it soon. And that something is going to have to be a massive, massive crackdown on the quote unquote protesters when they cross the line from protesting to interfering. I put something in the, not the chat, but the description of today's podcast. I always put something about today's show in the open there, in case you don't check that when you log on and watch our show. The streets are running wild with paid agitators and insurrectionists. How long before they're running with blood? And what can we, as peaceful and patriotic, and I like to use that phrasing, that's what President Trump used on January 6th, and which is what it would have been had it not been for the paid agitators and agents provocateur who are in that crowd. But peaceful and patriotic Americans, what are we to do about it? We discussed today with Chris Long of the Ohio Christian Alliance. He'll be with me in a moment. Because we don't want to engage in what they engage in. We don't want to engage in violence. But we have to be prepared for violence and to defend ourselves against violence if we have any hope whatsoever of surviving this period of time in which this attempted takeover of our cities by radicals drive out the police, drive out the federal agents, and leave behind the criminals. You know what that is? When law enforcement is removed and criminality is promoted it leads to anarchy. Anarchy is a system in which there are no rules, there is no order, there are no authoritative agencies overseeing the peace. That's what these people are, is they're anarchists. And unless we get and have our law enforcement get very, very, very aggressive with them, providing a deterrent to these activities, they're only going to get worse until these rivers or these streets are flowing like rivers full of blood. And that means more than just pepper spraying them to get them back. It means pepper spray them to kind of disorient them while you are taking them down to the ground aggressively and zip tying them and waiting for the next paddy wagon to show up. I know I've said this on a few different shows. I'm going to keep saying it. It's winter in Minnesota. This is happening in other places across the country too. Go Portland and Seattle and San Francisco. But this particular flashpoint, of course, is in Minnesota. It's winter there. Take them to the ground in the snow and zip tie them and hold them there. Let them freaking shiver. Let them freeze. Let their faces be laying on the snow until the paddy wagons come. If we don't start taking these people away, not just pushing them back, they're going to get more aggressive and more aggressive. They're going to close in, and they're getting in the faces of the agents and the officials. And it's like I said, it's going to lead to somebody feeling the need to protect and defend himself, and they're going to do so aggressively, which is what has to happen. If there's no deterrent, these people need to be taken to jails and held there until their arraignments, and hopefully 72 hours later. Let them sit in jail for 72 hours after being freezing. Just do what needs to be done. Otherwise, the people are going to take the matters into their own hands. Example, Exhibit A, what you see on the screen right now. This is a video that I put on my Instagram page, Facebook page, and I think it's on Twitter. It's all over the place. A lot of people have seen this, and a lot of people have posted this, but I'm going to show you mine from the Strictly Speaking Unfiltered Facebook page. This is what's going to happen far more often if federal authority, or excuse me, if law enforcement authorities, state and federal, don't start keeping the protesters to protesting with signs on the side of the road. You step into the road and into the way of the officers, obstructing them. You get in their faces and violate their personal protection space. You do any of those things, you're zip tied, and you're going to lay there in the snow for a while before they come. I mean this very seriously. Because if they don't do that, this is what's going to happen more and more and more. People are going to feel very threatened. People are going to feel very endangered, and they're going to fight back. Watch this guy in the camo jacket here, okay? Hopefully you're seeing that clearly. Watch the guy in the camo jacket here. He's got an American flag, and he's in the middle of a bunch of these anti-American, Marxist-trained, professional paid agitators. And they have decided he doesn't have the right to his free expression and his freedom, First Amendment protected freedom to protest. They harass him and get in his face to the point where ultimately he does feel threatened. And he is being assaulted, even if they're not touching him at that point in time. And you'll see how and why. And then you'll also see why this video has gone viral. You'll see why this just feels good. Watch. Boom! Boom, 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 boom! More! Who wants more? There's one for you. Anybody else? Come on over. Have a couple. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Who's next? Let's go. Bring that shit. Boom. You can have one. All right, Mr. Red Guy. Come on. Good night. Come on.
Hey, guys.
Boom. it so very much. I cannot get enough of that. Yes, I added the Rocky music.
Can you dig it?
I added the Rocky music. It just felt perfect for that moment. But I will tell you what, that is what has to happen. And anything he did there was absolutely justified because he was being assaulted. You blare one of those megaphones in somebody's ear with those high-pitched noises like that, you can cause hearing damage. It certainly is causing distress and discomfort, and you are allowed to defend yourself. He defended himself against that red-coated thug, that punk, that piece of trash on the first one. And then his buddies, his fellow anarchists came in, and well, like I said, they lined up for that smoke. They lined up for it, and they got it one by one by one. That is, like I said, all over my social media. Hopefully you're following me there at Strictly Speaking with Bob, Unfiltered with Bob France. And in fact, I don't think I have this on the locals page yet. I should put it there. But I have been, every time I've watched that over the course of, since last night, I've liked it even more. And I've probably seen it 10, 15 times. And you know what? If that was your first time absorbing this, you deserve to see it a second time too, because it is that glorious. Watch our camo American flag flying friend here defend himself against these anarchistic thugs. He tries to avoid him. He doesn't want the confrontation. He's turning away from him. They continue to harass him. This is assault. But they want that smoke so bad. Come and get some. Who's that? Here's one for you. Have a nap. Good night. Who's that? Who's ready for sleep? Ooh. Hey there.
Hey guys.
Just keep on going. Share that, my friends. Share that all over the place. Like I said, it has gone viral. It is fantastic, and it is something. And to be sure, or to be clear, I want to make sure that I'm saying this the right way. I want us to be peaceful and patriotic until we have reason to not be peaceful, right? He was doing everything he could to be peaceful. He's walking away. He's turning away. He's just trying to hold his flag. And they chase him, and he put that thing in his ear, and they're playing this loud thing, high-pitched thing, which is absolutely an invasion of his personal space, as well as the damage it could do to his hearing. He was being assaulted, and no one has a responsibility to allow themselves to be assaulted without defending themselves. And once it was time to defend himself, oh my, what a thing of beauty that was. But these kinds of things are going to elevate into bloodshed, not just fisticuffs. That's just the reality. I'm reminded of Kyle Rittenhouse and what had to happen there when he was there trying to help protect a friend's business, and he was there to scrub graffiti off of walls, and until he got attacked brutally and had to defend himself. And fortunately, he was second amended. He was second amended, right? He used his Second Amendment rights, was armed up, and was able to defend himself and save himself from being killed. That's the truth. That's the reality of it. And more people are going to do that if this kind of crap is allowed. All right. I went a little bit long there. It is 7:40, and I've got a guest waiting for me that I've been waiting to talk to on this program for a little bit now. He is the president of the Ohio Christian Alliance. You probably have heard him when I was doing terrestrial radio. You may know him from the Ohio Christian Alliance website. You may know him from his own podcast as well. Pastor Chris Long is joining us now here on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. Chris, good morning, my friend. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Bob. The time is now $38 trillion. That's right. The U.S. debt clock clicked to 38 trillion yesterday. And why does that matter? Well, I want to talk with your listeners about the fraud issue that is exploding in Ohio.
Yes, sir.
in Columbus. And it has, of course, the Minneapolis tie, because the Somalian population there, obviously, they have relatives in Columbus, and they have shared the tactics of how to go about to shake down the system through child care services, health care, home health care, transportation. And last week, I interviewed our state auditor, Keith Faber, on my radio program to discuss this. He said there absolutely is fraud. They are tracking it down. And he explained what the auditor's office can do and what it can't do. Well, it can't do, excuse me, on-site investigation. That is left up to the Agency of Child and Youth Services. That used to be the Job and Family Services. Governor DeWine rebranded it. And that bureaucracy says that they conducted 10,000 on-site investigations. Well, we don't know over what period of time that was. They weren't specific. The state auditor is requesting the records of the so-called 10,000 audits, right? How much you want to bet dollars to donuts that it did not, many of them did not take place right there in their own backyard in Columbus on Morris Road in the Somalian community. So what we have seen, and those that are following on X and have been following our information that we've been providing via email and also Facebook and social media, and that is that there are independent investigative reporters on the ground in Ohio. Jack Windsor, of course, is known to this audience. He is on the ground with John Rocker. They've been making a lot of calls. Mahek Cook and Walter Kurt is his name. He's an Ohio investigative reporter. They're all doing very excellent work, and they have their own teams out. So there is as many as 10 to 15 to 20 people that are doing investigative reporting, and they're posting it up on social media. What are they finding? They're finding empty buildings that have received hundreds of thousands of your tax dollars for a so-called child care or some other kind of agency. And many of them received millions of dollars. One door that they went to, $42 million in state funding has gone to this so-called resource center, and there was nobody there. And so we have seen this fraud thing is about to explode. Now,
when you say resource center, Chris, this is daycare. What we're talking about?
It's like a multi-agency type deal, right? That's how they've gotten 42 million. I think last year they got something like $4 million alone. So these are just the initial independent investigative reporting. You know, Governor DeWine said nobody should be going to a child care center. Oh, no doubt. You know, there should be, safeguards at a child care center. However, these are fraudulent front groups of which have been determined by these investigative reporting that the state auditor is beginning to ask questions, and he's knocking on the door of the Department of Youth and Child Services and asking them for the 10,000 audit records. So he's going to scrutinize that. He's also going to go to the state treasurer's office and to start comparing the checks that went out with those that have been registered by the Department of Children and Youth. Now, why is that all important? Because we're going by their record alone. Does anybody believe in the DeWine administration's reporting on this? I don't.
None. No.
I don't. And so that's why the governor has actually been he's very interesting in the way that he's gone about things the last couple of weeks, which is really a tell that there's a problem there. Now, how big is all this, right? Well, Tim Walz, there's a report that he may resign in the next week. The pressure there in Minnesota is so big on the state government and the investigation, and the Justice Department has received criminal referral to file charges against their state attorney general, Keith Ellison, and their governor, Tim Walz. And I'm asking you, we've got a problem here in Ohio. The feds, we are already have asked on the lower levels of our senatorial offices for federal investigation to come to Ohio. We have also, the Ohio Christian Alliance has put in a public records request of the so-called 10,000 audits that they conducted on site with these locations. So, you know, what did Reagan used to say? Trust but verify.
Verify.
So what I want to tell you, you know, when I started with the debt clock of 38 trillion. Well, let's talk about the government spending over COVID. What happened to your dollar? Where are we all living now? Well, we lost 18% of that dollar from 2020 to 2023. That same dollar from 2018 to 2023 lost 21% of its value. It did not recover. When the president says that inflation is leveled off or lessened in his speech at the end of 2025, he was right about that. But what was true is that wages haven't increased. The big, beautiful bill didn't kick in yet. Affordability was an issue. The president, obviously, when he gave that speech, I wish he had given it 2 months ago before the fall elections to talk about that 2025 was really the last year of the Biden economy. Now we are on the clock in the Trump economy, but everything's on. We're at the breaking point, Bob. Think about this. If the Supreme Court does not give the president the tariff right, what he's done, he has said it will be disastrous. He won't have the money in the U.S. Treasury to give that $2,000 to those earning $100,000 or less in June like he wants to. He'll have to reboot his whole economic plan. Now, there's some good things that are going to be happening. You're going to get more pay in your paycheck because of the tax code has actually shifted. So they're going to take less out of your paychecks. You're going to get more in your paycheck. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. There's going to be some good economic things that happen that way, but the president's not sitting on his hands. We put out an email between the holidays and we talked about the affordability issue and where we're at. This was 2025 was a terrible year. Our organization was down 16% in its funding, not because people didn't want to give to us, Bob. They didn't have any additional discretionary funding. It was all spoken for, as it were. These are people that have given faithfully throughout the years. And I've talked to other nonprofits. They're all in the same boat. So let's talk about this, that the president is addressing it because just before the end of the year, he talked about addressing the CAFE standards on cars, right? And he brought in all the big automakers and he redid the CAFE standards, making it easier for them to make the combustion engine again, right? The kind of cars that you and I can afford because with the Biden years, they basically destroyed it with the push on the EV and all that and really making it unreachable for young people to be able to buy a car, really anybody, a brand new car. So they were aware of that. I had that discussion with Bernie Moreno back in April. At that time, the car sales had spiked in April. Why? Because the tariffs were announced and anybody that did have money were going out and buying a car, but it fell after that. To his credit, the senator learned because he came on my radio program just last month and talked about affordability of middle income and lower income. So he's gotten the message. And I like an office holder that learns along the way, listening to the people of what's actually going on, where they're living. So the people that are listening to us right now know that their dollar has lost value and that things are hard for them. They're falling behind. People are angry about the fraud, Bob, because we've become nothing but a tax farm. We're the people that get up every day. We work our jobs. We pay our taxes. Then we watch half of it go away in taxes with local, state, and federal tax. Now we're watching it pilfered away, thanks to the investigations in Minnesota, but it's right here in Ohio and it's across the country. This thing is exploding on fraud. Then as I interviewed the state auditor, one of our advisors, who was a Cleveland businessman, now retired, said, hey, and everybody would know the business if I'd mentioned it. And he said, when we met with the auditor with you a couple of years ago, that was the unemployment. Remember during COVID, you could apply for unemployment benefits, right? The state auditor said at that time, Chris, the feds were pushing the money out so fast. We estimate that between $300 and $400 million were lost in Ohio and federal tax money of fraudulent claims just from the state of Ohio that they discovered. He said, Chris, I was one of them because that week when I met with you and he told us that this was like 2022 or 2023, he said, what happened was my company notified me that somebody had applied for unemployment benefits in my name.
Wow.
So this is all very real. So Keith's actually going to go back and deal with that with the feds because the Biden administration didn't want to deal with it. He said, we got the evidence. Here it is, but we got no help on the federal level. I mean, you didn't want to see the Biden administration. They knew it was being pushed out to all these cronies and all this. Now about the Somalian fraud. We now know that money is leaving the country. So what has the president done? Just in the last 2 weeks, he has told the big corporations that the big investment houses, you are no longer going to be able to buy these residential properties, turning them around and making them high rent to these kids who can no longer buy a home. That's not going to be tolerated. Did you know that Blackstone lost 7.5% of its value in one day. They lost $14 billion. Hey, wait, I'm crying crocodiles tears here, okay?
Yeah, really worried about.
Because they were acting like Potter. They were buying all the residential properties for investment, turning them around for high rent. These kids can't buy a house. They can't buy a car. They're going to go for socialism if we don't fix this. The president knows that. That's why he dealt with the affordability issue of autos with the CAFE standards, why he mentioned that about the big investment houses. Then he said to the credit card companies, because we are at an all-time high of debt as American citizens of credit card debt right now, all-time high. He said, you're going to cap it at 10%, okay? Then the other thing is that Scott Bessent, is it?
Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary.
That's right. So what did he say? He said, no more wiring this money out of the country, because, Bob, not only are we, the American people, losing all that, they're sending it out of the country. They're sending it back to Somalia. It's going back into terrorist groups. He is stopping the money leaving the United States of America. So there's a drain on all this. When I say we're at the breaking point financially, we really are. And so people need to pray for the president. They need to pray for our government. And as you said, these flashpoints of the left is trying to create a civil war, but again, there's strongholds of Minnesota and in Oregon and in Washington State. That's where they're trying to create the flashpoint. They want another George Floyd moment. They're not going to get it, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the president is right to kind of ignore them. What you do is you start charging Tim Walz and Keith Ellison. You start putting people in jail. That's going to really send the message to the American who has been paying his and her, have been paying their taxes, playing by the rules, and finally going to see some justice come around. And actually, Trump is taking on the big boys. So there's a lot on the table here, but we've got to get to the fraud in Columbus, and we're not going to stop. And by the way, so if the DeWine administration slow walks the public records request and puts it out in June to us, there's still plenty of time in the year to make sure that we go through that, show it to the feds and saying, get our money. Because here's the point, Bob. If the Republicans want us to show up and vote in November, then put people in jail that are guilty and also get our money back and go after the fraud. And this means, I'm sorry, it is in the Republican state of Ohio, but it's Mike DeWine has been sitting on it, and he's the one that's been keeping it from us.
Yeah, there's no question about it, and we have to call it out. No, I don't care what the party is, we have to call it out. If they're going to arrest Tim Walz, which they should, and Keith Ellison, which they should, they're going to have to do that to Mike DeWine, and I'm not going to throw our AG in there yet. But it's impossible, in my view, impossible for fraud on this scale to have completely escaped notice of all of the state officials. I don't care if they're auditors, inspectors, or anything else. Clearly, this is going on in plain sight, because if everyday average independent journalists can find it out, like Nick Shirley did up in Minnesota, and like you said, we got a bunch of people doing this in Ohio too, then they could have found this out if they had wanted to. They either looked the other way because I don't want to know, what I don't know won't hurt me, or they knew and maybe they got a piece of the action. But it is completely indefensible. And your point about the federal debt and about how much this is costing us because of the fraud is very, very important. I'm going to share something here with you, Chris, and with the audience. This is Christopher Rufo talking with, you mentioned him, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Listen to the depth that we're talking about here in terms of the fraud, how much money this is costing all of us out of our paychecks each and every year.
You recently mentioned you think there are between $300 and $600 billion in fraud every year of federal funds?
That's not my number. That's the General Accounting Office. So it's about 10% of the federal budget, 1% to 2% of GDP. And if we can narrow that number, President Trump asked for a $500 billion increase in the defense budget to fortify 10, 20 years of neglect and the forever wars that we've been involved in that he's determined not to get us into. That if we need to flex up our military budget, if we can get rid of this waste, fraud, and abuse, we can finance a safer, sounder U.S. with that, without taking on more debt. Sounds pretty good outcome to me.
Chris, 300 to 600 billion per year.
Yeah.
Per year is what we're talking about. So that means we are talking about multiple trillions of dollars in just say a 5-year span. Does that surprise you that it's that large?
No, it doesn't. And so in Ohio, when these investigative reporters hit the ground in Columbus, Mahek Cook among them, then the Department of Child and Youth Services announced we found 20 million more. Well, what was that all about? That's nothing more than a smokescreen. Oh, we found additional fraud. We're on top of it. Don't investigate us because we've already called for the feds to come in to investigate. That they don't want. Listen, Bob, it's a big number in Ohio. So we're going to guesstimate. So if, according to the state auditor, that the unemployment benefit fraud of the COVID years was 350 million in Ohio alone, how big do you put that number of these child care, home health care, transportation services, Medicaid fraud, SNAP fraud? How much do you put that at? We're looking at another 300 million plus. And so 20 million is just to throw us off the scent. It's not going to work. So the good news is State Representative Josh Williams, and I don't know if you've had him on your program yet. You should.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
And so he is having a press conference on Thursday, and weather permitting, we're going to get down there to that. And so he is unveiling legislation, but he's saying is the way it works right now is the administration polices itself. So you can't, even the attorney general can only prosecute and pursue what is has been referred to their office as fraud. They can then pursue it for charges. The auditor does not have that ability except for working in tandem with the state agency. It all falls on the DeWine administration. That's where it falls. And they're the ones who have been making the determination. So let's even take the one group that they said, oh, yeah, we ceased the payments to this group that said they were feeding this many people and they weren't feeding them. And so we drew back the payments. There were overpayments there. This is what they called overpayments, right? The fact of the matter was that was fraud, that it was embezzlement of state funds, and they never referred them for prosecution. So DeWine can't find it in his heart to, now he can swear at you and me. It's like, wow, blank, you should never be doing that. But he can't pursue them for fraud and turn it over to the attorney general for prosecution of the hard-earned tax merit money of Ohioans. Bob, I'll tell you why I'm so exercised about this, and I think you're going to appreciate this. I'm a grassroots guy at the end of the day. And when I see the grassroots saying, I'm not voting, and then I hear veterans, GWAT veterans, and some of our audience will say, what's a GWAT veteran? That's a Global War on Terror veteran, okay? These are the young men, at the time they were, who went to Iraq and Afghanistan and served in the Global War on Terror, okay, ladies and gentlemen? Let's give them the respect they're due. But it's not just GWAT veterans. It's a lot of veterans. They're saying, I wouldn't fight for this country anymore. And this, Bob, that shook me. And I'll tell you, all my life, I support our veterans. I support our country. But when they said, I see the invasion and I don't recognize my community anymore. When I walk in the grocery store and I hear 5 different languages. When I go and I see an invasion going on, they take half my wages in taxes. And then I see it being embezzled through fraud and pilfered away. I'm not willing to fight for this country anymore. Bob, that strikes to the heart of the matter. We're in the year of the quincentennial, the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding. So much to be celebrated for. But what am I asking people to celebrate? Think about it. You even just said yourself what we see what the political left is doing. They're trying to spoil the party, okay? And at the same time, if they don't get to this fraud, and so that's where you need to back up the president, back up those who are in office. And by the way, folks, why is the left so out of their minds? Because they're out of power. That's why they're out of their minds. They're out of power. They want power back at all costs. And in a two-party system, we only get 2 choices. But here's the point, Bob. If the president's able to move on these things, and he's doing really well, and then we're going to see by mid-year some promise of the midterms. It could turn around for the Republicans. But as it stands right now, they need to get busy on these things. But look to Thursday, because what that legislation is, they said the administration should not have that authority. We wanted, as the legislature and the attorney general, to determine whether these overpayments, so-called, this fraud should be referred for prosecution. The administration should not be the ones making that decision. I agree with that.
I do too. You know what I have to wonder, Chris, and people have been very, very critical of the, Pam Bondi-led Department of Justice since 47 took over, because we were promised, accountability. We were promised arrests. We were promised, and I'm talking about in all of the different things, that we have been watching at the federal level, whether it's going back to, those who stole the 2020 election, Operation Crossfire Hurricane. I mean, all of the different things, Arctic Frost, all of these different things, we're waiting for accountability. What do we get? We get a couple of show arrests of James Comey, and then that falls flat. Letitia James, then that falls flat. I want to know when you said Tim Walz, Keith Ellison, these people need to be arrested, not just, condemned online or even in speeches made by members of the administration. There needs to be actual accountability for deterrence to happen so that nobody else will continue to steal hundreds of millions, then hundreds of billions, and eventually trillions of our dollars. Do you think that this DOJ, Chris, and that you support this administration just like I do, but I have to be realistic. We're 1 year in, and I haven't seen an arrest yet, not one that stuck. Do you think that Pam Bondi and the DOJ are going to hold these people, Ellison, Walz, DeWine, and anybody else that was looking the other way while all of this fraud was taking place? Do you think this will happen?
I don't know, Bob. I'm sitting and waiting like everyone else, and as frustrated as you all are. Keith Ellison is actually on audio talking to the very people that committed the fraud, and has been proven, and they've been convicted, that he was going to not pursue them, make sure it was hidden. I mean, that's evidence right there enough. That's a criminal attorney general. They should raid his offices, and they should perp walk him out. At a minimum, the attorney general of Minnesota, because he has collaborated with those who committed the fraud, that pilfered United States Treasury and the tax money of both federal and state of the American people. So that at a minimum ought to be happening. These other things where you just wonder what's going to be happening, because we hear the reports, the evidence been submitted to the Justice Department, but then it's crickets. I don't know what to say. I don't know if the president's going to make a change at the Justice Department. He may. By March, he may make a change and saying, not enough action. I'm going to appoint a new attorney general. So we'll see.
Yeah, and what's frustrating about that is, this was, of course, his second choice for attorney general. The first was Matt Gaetz, and that didn't pan out, and so he gives it to Bondi. And of course, we have Kash Patel and Dan Bongino going to lead this resurgence of law enforcement at the federal law enforcement agency known as the FBI. And again, very little in terms of accountability. And Bongino is gone after 1 year. Back to the podcast, wars. I don't know. I don't know why it is so difficult. In fact, if you go back to, you could probably go back further than this, but I'll just go back, to 10 years ago when President Trump started out with Jeff Sessions, which turned out to be a giant mistake as Attorney General. Then he ended up with Bill Barr, who ended up not being what President Trump had hoped he would be, and in fact was maybe working at odds in some ways with President Trump. And then, of course, we have Merrick Garland for the 4 Biden years, who is only focused on trying to arrest conservatives and to try to put Trump in prison. And now here we are. We're supposed to have all of that solved. President Trump hasn't been able to find anybody at the head of this Department of Justice to actually affect the arrests and the accountability needed to clean up the corruption.
Well, that's right. And so, almost the quiet narrative between our discussion here is that, you're talking about a sitting governor. That would be, if you were to raid his office and the FBI was to raid in on his office, that would be a bad look. They did it to a U.S. president, Donald J. Trump. Okay. It's like, does everybody forget? Everybody has like amnesia. They can't remember. Oh, they did it to Donald Trump. It's like there's nothing off the table with the left, but with us, we get the same thing. No results. We're not telling people on this broadcast anything they don't know, Bob. We're as frustrated as you all are, and we're going to see something, or we're going to demand change at the Justice Department, because the evidence is there, and it's been presented to them on multiple levels. And when you think about the first administration, Comey, and what Brennan, what they did was treasonous. You're telling me in a collusion to thwart an election with the president of the United States back in 2016, what they did. So it's like, if nothing's done, that's why the midterms will be a wash, because people are just frustrated and fed up.
Yeah, and I'm frustrated and fed up. And to the point that you're making before, spot on about the Biden economy. This first year of Trump 47 was the last year of the Biden economy. Yeah. And even in that, it still got so much better than what it was.
It did.
To have a 2.7% inflation rate, down from the 5%
yes.
that we had under Biden, which peaked, of course, at 9.1 or 9.2%, already leaps and bounds better. But yeah, there are still a lot of things that are stubbornly high. A lot of prices are high. You mentioned about all of the different things President Trump is trying to do to lower home affordability and rent and so on and so forth by stopping these giant corporations from buying up all the properties. And once, as you pointed out, the big beautiful bill kicks in, which it did just on January 1st, we're going to start to see a lot more money in a lot more pockets because of, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. We know that the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is now permanent, so everybody is going to have those lower rates. There's going to be so much more spending, and the economy is going to grow, and a lot more jobs are going to be created. And I feel good, despite all of our problems and despite all of the fraud, I feel good about people seeing enough relief in their wallets, their pocketbooks, and in their accounts that they're going to say, you know what, it was broken, it has been fixed. Why should we change gears? So I feel optimistic about the fall and optimistic about the midterms from that vantage point. If we can add to all of that growth, the clawing back of our money and the accountability of the fraudsters, Chris, then I think we're in great shape.
I agree with that. So back to 2025, what happened when people said, well, why was it such a bad year for me? Here's one of the reasons why. So you remember in 2023 when Biden wanted to spend $3 trillion more and put it into the economy, government spending, $3 trillion more. This was after all the COVID spending, because people said, well, why didn't inflation seem to matter? Because you were getting subsidy checks. You were getting the PPP checks. You were getting, they were flooding the zone with all that government spending, which was driving up the debt. The $2 additional trillion on the U.S. debt clock came from interest alone, Bob. So 2025, if you remember, the Republicans cut everything, and they stopped the federal money flowing out, and that stopped, the COVID money stopped like a year and a half, 2 years ago now. So the dollar had to stand on its own with the devaluation that it had occurred because of all the inflationary spending. That's why when you're looking at that same dollar, there was no flood of additional dollars into the economy. That dollar had to stand on its own on 2025, and that's what made things really bad for 2025. Now, as we go into 2026, like you said, there'll be more money, but that's why Bessett's a little concerned. It's been flowing out of the country. I mean, you even have boomers, and they say the Jones generation that follows them, they're not retiring in Florida and Arizona. They're leaving the country to Costa Rica and other places, in Mexico and other places. They're taking the retirement dollars out of the country. You can't continue to have that drain on the money supply and it not affect the people every day that are living and working in the United States. We've just become a tax farm. This is a really huge issue. And you know who knows it, Bob? I mean, we're a little older. It is that younger generation, and they're pretty sharp and they're pretty savvy, and they know exactly what's happening, and they know what time it is in this country. And that's who President Trump is trying to address, so that they can buy a car, they can buy a home, that they can realize the American dream. And that's what's critical in 2026. And let's all pray and support and back the president and hope that we get there and that this fraud stops and the criminals go to jail.
Chris, last thing, your explanation earlier of the president's move to cut interest rates on credit cards to 10% is the best I've heard. It is so extraordinarily important for people to know we are swimming in revolving credit debt in this country. And by the way, that is not to the blame of the government. People have to spend within their means. People need to realize if you max out a card and then get another card and max that one out, you're really creating a big problem for yourself. But the point is, if everything is made so expensive and to the point where people can't make it on their salaries and they do have to charge this, that, and the other thing, ultimately they're going to charge it off. They're going to file bankruptcy, and the banks aren't going to get their money, and then they're going to stop loaning money, and we're going to have a very, very dangerous situation. And what you said, I think people need to understand. People will start to clamor for assistance, universal basic incomes, socialist economic policies by the government. They're
Right.
already moving in that direction on the Democrat side now, with people like Mamdani taking over the financial hub of the country, New York City. Socialists in the federal in Congress, in the House and the Senate side. They're being elected. For example, a new socialist mayor in Seattle. They almost got one in Minneapolis as well. Point being, the push for socialism is on, and it's real. And if they can break enough people right now through the crushing debt that we're talking about like that, they'll have more and more support for it, as people are saying, just let the government handle it. And that's the danger we face.
Well, Bob, I want to come back on the program in the future and tell you about some positive things we're doing at the Ohio Christian Alliance, and that is, how do we celebrate this quincentennial, the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding? And we have really a plan that we're going to roll out of simple things. You know, when we think about even Christmas, it's the simple things around the holiday that give us the most joy and meaning about Christmas. Well, the same thing can be about the celebration of our nation's birthday, like sitting down with your family or your grandchildren and reading with them the Declaration of Independence, visiting veterans in their homes, and some are in assisted living centers, some are in nursing homes, sitting down and visiting with a veteran, those who have paid the price for our liberty. There are simple, great ways that we can celebrate this great nation. We don't have to just go to a grand celebration, and there will be those, and the president has some great things planned. But I think it's in the simple things. And so what we're doing with our organization is encouraging Ohio school children to read the Declaration of Independence in this coming year. The resolution should pass the Ohio Senate in the next couple of weeks, and we'll share more with you about that.
I love that. You guys do such amazing work at the Ohio Christian Alliance, Chris. And remind people where they can find you, ohioca.org.
That's right. Or just search Ohio Christian Alliance. And also you can sign up to our email list. That's the best way for us to reach you. And that's on the front page as well. But you've got to take the time to do it, to just quickly add your email to the list. And we send out an alert every once or twice a week and give you important information. And Bob, thank you for all that you're doing with this podcast. And we wish you great success on your new venture here.
Well, thank you, Chris. I look forward to talking to you on a regular basis. You guys do such an amazing job. So thank you for coming on and sharing all of this with us today. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you, friend. God bless.
God bless you too. That's Chris Long, Ohio Christian Alliance president. He is a phenomenal person. He is an activist and he said it. He said, I'm grassroots at my core. And he's right. He's the reason why we have the D-Day prayer memorial at the United States World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. He's the reason the D-Day Prayer Project even got off the ground and succeeded, to the point where everybody who visits D.C. and goes to the World War II Memorial, you will be able to go and see this massive monument, which is carved and etched into stone, the prayer offered for our troops as they went off to battle in World War II on D-Day. And the D-Day prayer, it was one of the most inspiring moments, I think, in American history. And Pastor Chris Long is the one who spearheaded that entire thing. He got members of Congress and the Senate to back him. It was a 10-year labor of love, I guess, but a lot of frustration along the way. Almost pulled the plug because they needed to secure the funding to do it. And Chris led that. That's true grassroots activism, and he's a true patriot for that and many other things as well. All right, I'm going to get a timeout here real quick because we haven't broken yet. But before I do, I want to remind you about locals. We just launched the War Room yesterday, and I'm not trying to steal Steve Bannon's name, by the way. The War Room is obviously a tremendous asset, but when I said yesterday, I meant it. You know, Rumble is the show. Locals is the War Room. I want you to subscribe. All right. Especially I want you to be an unfiltered insider. That means to be a paid supporter of our locals community. That is where we're going to gather soon before shows. That's where we're going to gather after shows. That's where we're going to be able to share ideas and strategize. And you're going to get a lot for your involvement and for your investment there. Paid supporters as Locals, Unfiltered Insiders, you're going to get exclusive access to insiders only content that I will provide. You're going to get ad-free videos. You're going to get some extended commentary and rants that I don't dare do live on Rumble, even though we're unfiltered. There's going to be other things. You're going to get full interviews that I will post specifically for the insiders. I will not post them on the Rumble channel by themselves. All right. Weekly town hall meetings are going to be planned as well, probably starting either next week or the following. I just need to figure out what time of day is best for you guys to do a town hall meeting where we can all come in and literally we'll just engage with one another. I want to hear from you. Like I said, we're partners in this mission. But the town hall meetings will be where we get together and address all of the issues that are of most importance to us. And it'll help me steer the next week's podcasts to, in the direction that they need to be. Because I want to find out what you want to focus on. I want to be, like I said, a partner in all of this with you. So we'll have weekly town hall meetings where you can chat with me and we will strategize together. We'll do post-show debriefs. So it's a big deal. This Rumbles community is going to be, like I said, the hub where it all comes together. We'll plan everything out. We'll do things that are just for us on the locals page. And then, of course, the show will still always be on Rumble. So if you haven't done so yet, please click the join button. Take a look at the join button. You'll see it on the Rumbles page right now, just right below the screen, the video. You'll see that red join button. Click that. That will take you to the locals page for Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. You can join. You can be just a free subscriber if you would like. But if you'd like to be a paid supporter and be an Unfiltered insider, you will have access to all of those other important things. So that's where we are for the time being. I do need a quick timeout. We're going to take that. And then on the other side, we're going to come back and we're going to get into the chat room. And we're going to talk about why Islam is so evil. Sorry, but not sorry. And I know it's very direct. And I know that's going to be very triggering for some people. I don't give a rat's ass. Islam is evil. It is not a religion. It is an ideology. And its goal and its mission is to dominate, to conquer the world, quite literally. And we have far too much of an Islamic presence in this country right now. We're dealing with fraud. We're dealing with corruption. We're dealing with violence in the streets. We're dealing with these anti-ICE agitators. We don't need to add an intended conquering, quote unquote, religion to the mix. We're going to talk about that. Stay here, Strictly Speaking Unfiltered, right back after this time out. All right, let's get back to it. Short time out over, and we still have a lot of work to do. It's 21 minutes past the hour. We're going to take you for about another 40 or so. So I want to, as I fade the music down a little bit, I want to address something that, although I keep getting text messages from people saying, show the fight again. Do you want me to do that? You want to get that? Okay. I can do that. This is from my Facebook page. It's gone viral in many, many different places. I kind of spiced it up a little bit for my own purposes because I loved the video so much. I added a little bit of music, a little bit of a theme to it. But since I'm getting so many messages from folks saying, show the fight again, I'll show the fight again. This is, let me see if I can make this happen here real quick. Yeah. This is one of the brawls as the paid agitators, disruptors, obstructionists, insurrectionists, et cetera, get in the way of ICE and their law enforcement activities. There was a patriot here, and I believe this is also Minnesota. There's a patriot here wearing that camouflage jacket. I don't know if you can see my mouse when I move the cursor when I'm sharing the screen with you. But the guy in the camouflage jacket here is holding an American flag, and he's surrounded by a bunch of the lunatics, the leftists, the insurrectionists that we're talking about. And they see that flag and they get triggered by it. They see that camouflage, indicative of our American military, and they get triggered by it, and they immediately attack. And they follow him around and they try to get in his face. They're blasting this thing in his ears, hoping to provoke him in some way. That's what they do, or to drive him away. And the way I address it in the video, which you'll see, is they lined up to get this smoke, and they got every single bit of it that they could ever want and more. This has gone viral. This guy is my new hero. Watch and enjoy.
What's it like to find a pedophile shit, bro?
Hey, guys.
I cannot watch that enough, and I cannot love that enough. I mean, dude just has lefts and rights for everybody. Anybody wants some, get in line and come and get some. And he just served them all up, like I said, more than they ever bargained for. This long-haired punk freak, the one who's blasting that megaphone thing in the guy's ear, which, like, again, I said this earlier on, is an assault. This punk is, he got the first taste, and then he got some of the last taste of what it's like from the camouflaged American patriot. Why are they so triggered by his flag? Why are they chasing him around and causing problems? But this guy gets the first taste, and then he comes back all, I'll show him, and he's taking his gloves off. Let's go round two. And then clunk, good night, nappy time. Enjoy your slumber. That's an assault right there. What they're doing to him, and he's trying so hard to be peaceful. He doesn't want anything to do with it. What would you do? What would you do? Forget about this being a protest or anything else. If somebody came up to you in a parking lot or on a street corner or anywhere and started blaring that thing in your ear, and you walked away and he followed you around with it, what would you do? And what would you be within your rights to do? I would say I would have reacted a lot earlier than our camouflage flag-bearing hero here does. Not all heroes wear capes. Some of them wear camo jackets and they carry flags, by the way. But I would have reacted a lot sooner. I would have protected myself in this violation and this invasion of my personal space, as well as my hearing. I would have reacted a lot sooner. I probably would have taken that megaphone from him and smashed him over the head with it. But that's me. Sometimes I don't have the most genteel character. This guy tried really, really hard, though, to walk away. What would you do? Well, I'll get into the chat in a moment. But he tried very, very hard to walk away, and he made it impossible, did the long-haired red jacket freak here as he stalked him. Watch. Yeah, get ready. There you go. No. Who else wants some? You? Come on over here. Who's next? Who's that? Yep, one for you. Come on, come on. Step up and have some. 2, 3, 4, 5. Who else? Who's next? Come on now. I missed the smoke from before.
Hey, guys.
You just can't. Oh, no, I didn't count them all, actually. But the number of blows that he thundered down on these freaking leftist, cowardly lunatics is just amazing. I gave him one before. I'm going to give him one more here.
Can you dig it?
All right. I want to talk about something now that is related to the news of the day and the tumult in which the country finds itself right now that it's dealing with. We've got socialists growing in number, collectivism promised by the mayor of our largest city, communism being advanced in every leftist circle. It's dangerous. And then the other aspect of that, like I said before, is Islamism, Muslims. Sorry, not sorry. Call me a phobe if you want. Phobia is fear. Do I fear Islam? Yeah. I'm not too proud to admit that. Yeah. And why? Why do I and why should we all fear Islam? And the answer is because Islam is not a religion. It is not something that where peaceful people gather together and pray and then go around doing good works for other people the way many faiths are. It is not a religion at all. It is a dangerous, dangerous world-conquering ideology. Example, Turkey. You know what Turkey used to be? Turkey used to be a Christian nation. It was conquered by Islam. Egypt used to be Christian, conquered by Islam. Iraq, Syria, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Bosnia, Albania. These are all Christian nations that were conquered and taken over by Islam to the point where Islam rules the countries. They're governed under harsh Sharia law. That's just a fact. Islamic conquest and invasion has been a part of history since they made this whole thing up. Since this Muhammad character, if he ever actually existed, raping young girls and taking brides at age 9 and so forth, depending on the actual historical accuracy of all of that, the religion calls for some of the most barbaric things in the world. And world conquest is the most barbaric of all of them, because the mission is to kill those who don't join you in Islam. You'll either be converted to Islam or you will be killed. I was sitting in my church Sunday, and I'm Catholic Mass, and something struck me when we were praying and doing the Nicene Creed, and we get to the line about the Virgin Mary. Blessed Mary, ever Virgin. Blessed Mary, ever Virgin. And the word virgin just jumped out at that point in time. Obviously, Jesus Christ was born of a virgin conception. We all know what the Bible says, and we all know about what we believe, that the Virgin Mary, who had never known man, was going to be with child, and that God was going to bring the Savior of the world to this earth by way of her as the vessel. Blessed Mary, ever Virgin. And I heard that word in my Mass on Sunday, and it occurred to me, just jumped out at me about virgins. And my mind went to the Islamic promise of 72 virgins in heaven, if you want to call it the same thing, being in the presence of Allah. And if you die as a martyr for the faith, you will be rewarded with 72 virgins in their heaven, right? And Lord forgive me, I'm in the middle of Mass and I should be paying attention to the rest of the Mass, but my mind just started wandering. And tell me if you've ever thought about that. In any case, whether it's in church or not, but my mind started wandering about, what does that mean? That a dead terrorist, somebody who dies for Islam, dies killing a Jew, dies killing any other infidel, flies a plane into a building, does something dies in the purpose of advancing the cause of Islam, they believe that they get 72 virgins in the afterlife. And so my mind went to, what does that mean? He gets to go up to heaven and abuse 72 young girls? Use them and abuse them in whatever way he wants? That's the promise of Islam? The greatest accomplishment you could ever get is to die in service of Islam and be rewarded with 72 virgins. So in other words, the 72 virgins are in hell. The reward for the dead martyr is to be able to have his way with 72 virgins, to be able to sexually assault and abuse and do whatever with 72 young virgin, females who, again, apparently must have done something wrong in their lives. Maybe they let somebody see their forehead from beyond their burqa, or their face from beyond their what are they called? Which one is the hijab? Which is the burqa? I don't care. Whatever they did wrong, they actually have to be submitting to the martyr to do whatever he wants for all time. I'm thinking about this in my Mass. I'm thinking to myself, what a grotesque perversion of faith Islam is. They teach this. They announce this. This is how they get suicide bombers to blow themselves up in the service of killing, or in order to kill other people in the service of Islam. Because you're going to get rewarded with 72 virgins that you can do whatever you want with when you get up to heaven. What kind of a faith does that? What kind of a religion that we're supposed to be respectful to here in the Western Hemisphere? Again, Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. What kind of a faith says the goal here is to be able to screw and abuse virgins forever in the afterlife? All 72 of them are yours and yours alone to command. What kind of faith does that? And what woman would want to be a part of that faith? What woman would be okay with that? Where are American Christian feminists or not even Christian feminists, just American feminists. Many of them are atheists. Where are the awfuls? Where are the affluent white liberal females? Awfuls. When it comes to speaking out against Islam and the dehumanization of women, the subjugation of women, the oppression of women. Let's just say it. The rape of women in the afterlife. Why wouldn't they speak out against that? They speak out against Christianity. They speak out against conservative family values, but they say nothing about radical Islam, which is all of Islam. And I'm learning. I have learned through the last, 20 years a lot, particularly the last 11, a lot more about Islam than I ever knew from people like Robert Spencer, people like Daniel Greenfield, people like Claire Lopez. I've learned a lot about this. And what I've really, most importantly, have learned is that we need to stop using the different terminology to describe Islam. Because we'll say there are Muslims and then there are Islamists. And I've been educated on this. There's no difference between the two. Islamist is supposed to be Muslims are just regular peaceful Muslims, believers in Islam, and Islamists were political believers in political Islam, using politics or force, the sword, to conquer and expand the reign and the role of Islam worldwide. There is no difference between the two. In fact, the reality is the quote unquote Islamists, if you were to divide them, are the true practitioners and believers in and of Islam. The peaceful ones, which of course there are many, peaceful members of the Muslim quote unquote community, they're the ones who aren't truly fully Muslim. They're essentially apostates. They are rejecting that which they are called to do by their faith, because their faith, the political ideology of Islam, tells them that you must help advance and grow Islam and convert people to it or kill them. You are either supportive of the terrorist activities of militant Islam, or you're not truly Muslim. These are the people who have apostatized, essentially saying that, I don't believe in all of that stuff about advancing Islam. Well, that means you're not truly Muslim. It is a dangerous, wicked, and evil ideology, and it is taking root. Why do you think, if you don't think it's expanding and growing right now, why do you think President Trump waited until his second term to declare the Muslim Brotherhood a foreign terrorist organization? Honestly, it's getting worse by the day, by the week, by the month, by the year. It's getting worse. And the fact that we just elected, or they elected, a socialist Muslim Islamist who swore, and I talked to Dr. Piper about this at length last week, who swore in two different ceremonies on two different Qurans. He took his oath of office as mayor of New York City. And one of them was an ancient Quran from the days of the Ottoman Empire, in which, the most blood-soaked pages of history were written. The Ottoman Empire and the conquering of all of those nations that I was just reading you a list of, they conquered them not to spread the faith of the peace, the religion of peace, the peace and love of Muhammad. No, they spread bloodshed and complete domination of the world by Muhammad. That's what it was all about. It sparked the pushback in defense of Christianity that became known as the Crusades. The Crusaders were fighting back against this world domination in an attempt to wipe out Christianity altogether and to take over full control of the world. That's what the entire Ottoman Empire expansion was about. That hasn't changed. Well, you think, okay, we got Syria, we got Egypt, we got Turkey. These are all Muslim nations now. We got Iraq, we've got, Serbia, we've got Bosnia, we've got all of these, these countries that are Islamic now. So we're done? What, you think that they're done with just, a portion of the world? What would be the purpose of that? the biggest, fish left for them to catch is the United States. And they've been here working on this for a very long time. They're very patient. It's a long game, but massive steps forward in their goal have been taken recently. And that's why President Trump said, sound the alarm on the Muslim Brotherhood. We need to sound the alarm on CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. This country is in a very, very dangerous spot. On one hand, we've got massive anarchy being carried out by paid globalist agitators, hiring lunatics, most of them white women like Renee Good, to go out there and sow anarchy, division, and chaos by not allowing law enforcement to be practiced, get in the way of law enforcement and allow more criminal activity to happen to help further break down the social structure of this republic. That is a real, genuine, legitimate threat that is going to probably end in a lot more bloodshed than we have seen thus far. Okay? That's happening on one side. And then on the other side, we've got people like Mamdani pushing and promoting Islam and saying we're going to sound the call to prayer 5 times a day. We're going to have people setting up prayer rugs and prayer mats in public spaces all over New York City, all over New Jersey. And then, of course, he's promising the warmth of collectivism, which, of course, as I've said before, the warmth of collectivism ends when the bodies go cold, because that's what collectivism, socialism, and communism bring, is dead bodies. So all of these different things are kind of all piling on us at once. And by the way, since I just brought up the ICE thing again and the anti-ICE agitators, let me share this with you. I shared with you a link that was similar to this last hour, but this one is more specific because it's Minnesota centric. The loons that I was just talking about, the anti-ICE agitators and lunatics. These individuals, they're protecting these violent people. And I want that to be known too. Before I go on with this, Renee Good, who was shot while she did run into and almost ran completely over. Thankfully for the officer, he was a good shot to save his own life. But Renee Good, the one who slammed into the ICE officer and was killed in a self-defense maneuver, she was there, and so was her partner. They were there to advocate for these people you see on your screen right now. This list, complete with headshots and criminal biographies, released by the Department of Homeland Security to Fox News over the weekend, saying these are the types of people Democratic politicians and activists are referring to as their neighbors as they attempt to interfere with ICE. These are the neighbors that they're advocating for. These are the people they would rather have in the community than ICE. As the lunatics are screaming F ICE and get out of our city and get out of our country and all fascist this, Nazi that, and so forth, they don't want the law enforcement people there. They would rather have the targets of law enforcement there with them. And who are these people? Again, this is Caroline Leavitt, press secretary. This is why we have ICE agents. May God bless them for their thankless work to protect American communities from these types of sick people. This is just the worst of the worst criminal aliens in Minnesota that we're viewing there. In the X post, Caroline Leavitt added, just take a minute to think about how deeply indoctrinated and deranged one must be to go out in the middle of a workday and protest against law enforcement officers who are deporting monsters like these. Because we are talking about rapists. We're talking about sex offenders. We're talking about child molesters. We're talking about murderers. We're talking about carjackers. These are illegal aliens who are in this country only because of Joe Biden. Illegal aliens only here because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and their red carpet in which they allowed 12 to 20, nobody knows the real number, 12 to 20 million illegal aliens to come into this country during his 4 years. These people are from places like Laos, Sudan, Sierra Leone, Somalia, Burma, Guatemala, and so forth. Only one of the featured criminals up here, by the way, is from Mexico. But these are the people that the left and people like Renee Good would rather have in their communities with them than the law enforcement officers whose job it is to find them and arrest them. Child rapists, sodomizers, convicted killers, these are people living in the communities that the left is trying to protect. Somebody make that make sense to me or for me. I can't find a way to make that make any sense to me. All right. What do you say we have a little visit to the chat? And again, if you are in the chat room right now and you have not yet hit the like button, please make sure you do that. Remember, the algorithms, the platforms, they love engagement. More than anything else, they love engagement. They like to see not only that you're watching, but they like to see that you are into it and you are liking it and you are commenting, not just in the chat room, but also in the comment section underneath the video. Make sure you get down there and leave a comment there as well. It likes the engagement. But let me stop in and see what people have to say. It's been a very busy morning, obviously, so I like to visit the chat at least a little bit before the end of every show. So we'll get a little bit of this in right now. And this is random, by the way, because I'm just scrolling back up to the top of the chat or near the top of the chat to see exactly where people are. Bong Time, interesting handle. Enjoying the herb, I would imagine. Bong Time. I'm not here to judge, although I'm kind of judgy. Bong Time says, please, our government doesn't even give a shit about the veterans. I mean, I have to run the people like Wounded Warrior Project for help, run to the people like Wounded Warrior Project for help. That's a terrible, tragic truth and reality. Our wounded warriors, our veterans do not get all of the support and the help that they need from our government, but our government is willing to but to allow to be stolen $300 to $600 billion each year in fraud and look the other way. And make no mistake, that 3 to 600 billion, again, make sure you understand that's annually. So that means in 2 years, it's 1.2 trillion. In 3 years, it's 1.8 trillion. You understand this just over the course of 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years. Why do we have a $38 trillion debt? In large part because of all of the expenditures we have to make, because we can't keep all of our money that we actually generate and revenue we generate because of the fraud. So you're right. Wow. I'm not even going to read this increase immigration. We've got a troll in the house, it looks like. We've got a troll in the house who is just trolling, saying F veterans, defaming the name of Jesus Christ, and so forth. And you know what? Let them in there. Come on in. Come on in. Unlike leftists, we don't censor. We'll take you down. We'll take you down verbally, figuratively, and like our hero in the camouflage jacket. If you come up to us with this stuff personally, we'll take you down. But we won't try to cancel or silence your voice. If you want to be a lunatic leftist and say things like this, so be it. Because I think the rest of the chat will certainly have their say. Bong Time says no one should be censored for any type of speech. If you ask me, there you go. That's kind of what I'm saying. Liberty Bell said Bob needs a moderator in here for people like the troll, whose name is Increase Immigration. Yeah, I suppose I could, but like I said, my goal here isn't to censor. My goal is for you guys to censor people like this. You guys need to take down all of the trash and the trolling that they're doing. So that's kind of your part of this. I probably would not let somebody like this join the locals community to be a part of our war room. I will not allow that. But if they want to come on here and take on the chatters and the rest of the people here, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. I mean, I do block people on the Facebook page, and I have blocked people on Twitter for certain things or X for certain things. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I've tried very, very hard not to do the censorship thing. I'd like the situation to play itself out. and censor these individuals, on your own. CLF Far West Sider says, I have never made that connection that Islam teaching is only speaking to the most sinful nature of men. It absolutely is the most sinful nature of men. Here's 72 fresh virgins for you to use and abuse at your leisure, at your whim. That's a religion? Take all of the sexual liberties you want with women who cannot defend themselves, these young virgins, and enjoy yourself for all of eternity? That's the faith? I thought about this in Mass, for crying out loud, thinking of the Blessed Mary, ever Virgin. Let's see. If somebody threatens my life, I'll invite them down to my house. Wow. That's another bong time quote there, and I'm not sure exactly what that means. If somebody threatens my life, I will protect my life and that of my family, and I won't let them anywhere near my house. That's why my friends Smith and Wesson are always on duty. Sarah, affluent white liberal females, awfuls. Yes, that is exactly correct. That's what I'm calling them. Big Jake, Islam is evil and seeks to convert or be killed. Christianity is not violent unless provoked. Example, Jan Sobieski, 1683. So it looks like bong time is also a troll, it would appear. Religion is just for people that can't think for themselves. Okay, you can think that if you wish, and we'll see how that plays out for you at the end of your life, and more specifically, when your life is over. That's up to you. Victor says, hadn't thought about it that way, but you make a good point, Bob. Their reward is making a life of hell for 72 others. Thank you. That's exactly the point that I was trying to make. And it just, I don't know why it occurred to me with such clarity as I sat in church. Maybe I do, actually. Maybe I do. Maybe I was in the right house for it, God's house. Maybe I was in the right place to get a message that said, point out the differences between actual religion and faith in something beautiful and bigger and selfless like Christianity and the evil political ideology that is Islam. Spread the word. Maybe that's why that I literally was touched by that in church. I don't know. Let's see what else we have here. The politically incorrect mechanic says a religion based on 7th century barbarism. Correct. That is exactly right. That's what it is. Talking about Islam. Let's see. One more from Charlie. There's a human race, and that's it. All of our DNA is 99.997% the same, regardless of your skin color. That is also correct. Let's see. Now we're getting into racial battles here. I'm just trying to give a little bit of love to the chatters here. And they do seem to be, thank you, Fours Freedom. They do seem to be getting off into some tangents here that are not necessarily the best topics that I want to talk about. What we have been talking about over the course of the last half hour, though, I think is important. Increase him. Okay. Increase him is, I may have already been convinced to violate my own rule about censorship, because now this is getting to be pretty grotesque, the things that this individual is seeing or saying. I can mute him. I can mute him for 5 minutes. I can mute him for the duration of this live stream, and I can mute him forever. How about that? I'll mute him for the duration of this live stream. That way I'm not actually blocking or canceling. This is more of a timeout. Like when I was teaching, if a kid gets out of line, we're not going to throw him out of school, but we're going to take him out of the room. We're going to take him down to the principal's office or assistant principal's office for a little while so everybody else can learn. So how about that? A timeout here for the rest of this particular live stream from the lunatics. We can do that. That's not full censorship. That's just keeping control. Lois Irene says, we in Act for America, Brigitte Gabriel's group, tried to get CARE designated as a terrorist group back in 2017, but it didn't happen. Senator Portman of Ohio wasn't interested. Lois Irene, I've got good news for you. Brigitte Gabriel is going to be on this show probably as early as next week. I connected with her last week. She told me how much she always enjoys our conversations. She has not been on the podcast yet. Brigitte Gabriel, founder of Act for America, will be on with us. I don't have the date yet, but I'm going to assume early next week, based on my conversations with her so far. But early next week, we'll have Brigitte on, and we will talk about CARE. The Council on American Islamic Relations is an absolute front group for the Muslim Brotherhood. It is a terrorist organization, and it should be designated as so. And hopefully the President of the United States will see it that way as well, like he did with the Brotherhood themselves. So great points there. Let's see, what else do we have here? Big Jake, we cannot equate Muhammad's heaven with our definition. No, we can't. It's not heaven. Again, it's a hell for the girls. Very good point. Okay, Bong Time is going to have to be, Bong Time is going to have to be on this muted for the live stream as well. I'm just learning these tools, by the way, because I haven't done this before. So it looks like the trolls and the bots are going to come out here and start finding influential podcasts, and that's what we're becoming, and trying to disrupt. And it looks like, lots of trolls. Bob must be doing a good job. Apparently so. Big J, can we trust those Islamic countries that appear to be friendly? After all, they are allowed to lie for the cause. No, cannot. Cannot trust them at all. Pete, calling out the loser trolls. That's your job. Pete also saying Muslims are evil. Zelda says, wish someone would have asked this question to all the liberal women nut jobs at Mondami swearing in. Yeah, that's kind of the point. I would love to ask female, the awfuls. I would love to have female supporters of Islam explain how they're okay, particularly if you're a feminist, how you're okay with teaching that the number one goal, the best option in life for a Muslim male is to die in service to Islam, to die while killing others, or die in some way, shape, or form defending Islam. That the greatest goal is to die that way so that you can go and have unlimited amounts of sexual gratification from 72 virgins who are there to please you. Tell me how you square that with feminism. Tell me how you square that with, you call conservatives and people like Donald Trump misogynist. Is there anything more misogynistic than your reward will be 72 virgins who have no say whatsoever in what you do to them? Anything more misogynistic than that? I can't think of one. All right, I'm going to wrap it here. But what I do want to remind you as we do bring this one to a close, I want to remind you of what is waiting for you in locals. Make sure you click that join button. In addition to the thumbs up button, in addition to the follow the Rumble channel, click the join button to join us in locals. That is our community. It's where we can strategize. That one will absolutely have an entrance requirement, and the trolls like the loons who were just in the chat room will not be allowed. This will be our place to work, to strategize, to plan, and also to talk about what you want. What do you want to hear? Who do you want to hear on this program day by day, week by week, as we continue into 2026, trying to protect and preserve and save this republic. So that's what the goal is going to be. Become a member of our locals community, and more importantly, become a paid subscriber. For $10 a month, you can be what we're calling Unfiltered Insiders, and you'll have access to interviews and commentary and articles that I will not post on the regular channel, and I will not post on my socials. You want to be a part of that, and you want to engage directly with me, join me in the locals community. Click that join button now. But for now, that is going to do it. Thank you to Pastor Chris Long. Tomorrow, I've got a Kirsanow day planned for us. Peter Kirsanow will be back with us tomorrow, and Peter always has something phenomenal to offer the program. We'll get his thoughts on some of the things that we were discussing today, what we do about the anarchy, what we do about the radicals. So Peter Kirsanow will be with us tomorrow in the second hour from 8 until 9 o'clock. And I'm trying to bring you some music here, and for whatever reason, the Thursday, we're going to talk with a friend, Mark Sutherland from the UK is going to be joining us to talk about free speech, because it is gone. It doesn't exist anymore in Great Britain. Okay, so we're going to talk to him from across the pond on Thursday, and we'll also talk to Dr. Everett Piper too. So we've got a great week still to come in front of us. Today was an important step too. take to heart the messages that we're sharing with you. Please get inside of the locals community. Follow the other social media platforms where you can find this show and join us. It is a partnership effort. I can't do it without you. That's just the reality of the situation. So thank you to today's guest. Thank you to the chatters. Thanks for watching, for listening, being a part of it. As always, be well, be safe, and stay free. And we'll see you the next time right here on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered.